Board of Supervisors meeting for the town of Sevastopol on Monday, October 16th at 7 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call to establish a quorum. Amy, if you would.
Supervisor Linda Waite.
Here.
Supervisor Jeannie Vogel.
Here.
Chairman Dan Wolfel.
Here.
Supervisor Derek Daniel.
Here.
Supervisor Mark Hain.
Here. Okay, good. Tonight be able to have a meeting. Let's start with meet and greet. The gentleman in the front row, I think I know your name.
Good evening. I'm Hughes Little, District 14 Supervisor, which is eastern half of Sevastopol and Ward 1 of the town of Street Bay.
Nick Wyman, Country View Road.
Kirk Krell, Elaine Drive, Assistant Chief for Sevastopol Mars.
Jeff Lang, 6417 Whitefish Bay Drive.
Jeff Pepper, 6449 Whitefish Bay Drive.
Tim Dimon, Fire Chief.
Go ahead, Gary.
Gary Londo, 4376 Henry Road.
Rick Tank, 3926 Clarkside Road.
Tom Ash, Mining Pioneers Board President.
Videographer, Kerry will introduce himself.
And Larry Chapman, Sevastopol.
Welcome and thank you. Public participation. Anyone wishing to speak on some non-agenda items? I will give you a couple minutes to do that. If you're interested. Yes, sir.
I would, Jeff Lang, 6417 Whitefish Bay Road. I would just like to, to acknowledge the passing of Chuck Tice in the last week or so. I know Chuck sat up there where you sit for several years and always was quite a particular person. So I just want to say God rest Chuck and thank you to him.
It's interesting that you should do that. You just saved me the effort. But I would say I attended the service. I did spend a number of years with Chuck. Chuck was on our board 12 years, which actually surprised me, the length of time that he served. And as he always said, if you want something done correctly, do it yourself. And that was always his model. And he did a good job. He helped me on this town hall building. So he was, he will be missed. So thank you for acknowledging that. Anyone else? All right. Hearing from no one else here, let's see if our agenda was properly noticed.
The agenda was properly noticed.
What does this make, 17 weeks in a row?
Something like that.
All right, motion to adopt the agenda as presented here.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as noticed and posted.
Motion by Linda, second by Jeannie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes. All right, approval of minutes, Board of Supervisors meeting from September 18th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from September 18th, 2023.
Motion by Jeannie, second by Mark, to accept the minutes from the last Board of Supervisors meetings. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. All right. Pending business. We're going to start off. Oh, before I do that, I'm supposed to make an announcement to those of you who can't watch YouTube tonight. It's not going to be live, but if you can catch us on TV, you can catch it later on YouTube as well. So I don't know if that's going to be beneficial for anybody. We're down an employee for the evening. So at any rate, Linda has been our representative with Destination Sturgeon Bay and has some ideas to maximize the contribution that the town makes to the marketing efforts of Destination Sturgeon Bay, and I will let you take it from there.
Okay, so last year's Destination Sturgeon Bay 2023 activity guide, I think we all felt that we were a little bit left out of when it comes to promotion. I don't even think the dairy breakfast was mentioned in there. So, and having Cameron Ehlers here at a couple of our meetings and reporting on what's going on at Destination Sturgeon Bay, I reached out to her and indicated that we would like a two-page spread in the 2024 guide. Laddie, if you want to bring that up, we can all take a peek at it. I am not an expert when it comes to graphics or anything like that, so this is a very rough draft. And I'm hoping that the people who do the guide will make it nice and pretty and fit with whatever format they decide to use for 2024. If you look at all the parks, trails, beaches, and launch areas that we have. And then if you scroll down to the next page, I mean, I'm amazed at the number of things that you can do in Sevastopol. I didn't even hit everything that's on here, so, and some pictures that I've taken over the years or have had permission to use. I did receive a very nice photo from Tom Jordan of a candlelight skier at Whitefish Dunes, so I would definitely want to include that. But anyway, so Cameron asked that after our meeting tonight, if there's any additional input or comments or anything like that, I should forward those to her. And like I said, I'm depending on them to pretty it up and include it in this guide and give Sevastopol some recognition. If you have dates that we need to include, I've only included a couple, and we can add a couple more. So we have the Sevastopol FFA Dairy Breakfast. That's on page 1, Laddie. On Saturday, July 6th, I may put a Saturday in there because we are deviating from Sunday.
Really?
Yep. And it will be at a real farm. The Stotts is our hosting us this year, so great. And then that Whitefish Dunes Candlelight Ski, it's normally the third Saturday in January. So like I said, I do have a really nice photo. We have the Thresherie, and we could also include the beach walk at Whitefish Dunes, which is normally the third Saturday in August or thereabouts. So if there's other events that you think we should include.
Would the plant sale, the Door County Master Gardener's plant sale be worth putting in?
Why not?
So it
Put
certainly
it on
be
the list
appreciated.
put it on the list of to-dos.
Garden door. Yeah.
When do they start working on this?
Well,
Or when does the copy
this
have
was
to be
kind of
done?
confusing because when I reached out to Cameron and she said, "Oh, I'm waiting for the first draft," which nobody even asked us what we wanted to put
Really?
in the first draft. So, like I said, I'm hoping for a 2-page spread at no cost to the town, that any cost to format it or include it in the guide will be covered by our community marketing funds that we contribute to them.
Our annual meeting's coming up yet this month, so they don't have a date established yet for the plant sale. They're actually talking about going back to Memorial Weekend like we used to do it. So let me see if I can find out a
please
date.
do.
Keep me informed on
Right.
when
Right,
it closes on having the
Right,
draft.
so I think was it mid-November was the absolute deadline?
Yes.
Well, she was
I think
supposed to
so.
be here this month to do her quarterly recap and begged off because she had prepared this.
Yeah, but as far as events, I think we would have no problem including any event sponsored by a nonprofit. As you
And
can
that's what
see,
we are.
those are all nonprofits, the park, the Sevastopol FFA, Garden Doors, nonprofit. Now, I don't know if the school would have anything that they might want to include
That's what I was gonna
as
ask.
well.
Yeah, maybe
Does that
they
be
would.
June 21st to 23rd would be the Mighty Pioneers Baseball Tournament? Would that be,
Okay, if somebody could email me or email Amy with some dates and events, and we might not be able to include them all, but, you know, the major ones that the public is invited to and that visitors might enjoy coming to. Hope you could get those to it.
When do you need that?
The absolute deadline on the guide is, I think, mid-November, so the sooner the better, Brooke, please.
Could be something simple like the last day of school. That would be put on there.
And the first day of school?
First day.
So just remember this will be the 2024 guide. So we will have the January 2024 candlelight ski in there, so 2024. Right. I love that place. I've hiked it several times, so.
think you had that.
I think I have that on the list.
Yeah.
Yes, the Sevastopol Ecological Preserve.
Right.
Right, Dunes Lake access. Like I said, we have a lot of public access places in our town, so we might as well take some credit for it.
So,
The land trust also has a number of,
That's
Places.
the Bay Shore Blufflands
Ah.
Preserve is the land trust.
okay.
so they progressed
That was more
on this
than-
guide, just like they did last year, with no involvement up front whatsoever. So what was her reaction when you shared with her your work, which, by the way, I think is outstanding effort.
Thanks.
Thank you. I haven't heard back from her. Like I said, she was not going to get back to me until comments tonight. So obviously, we want to include some more events,
Okay.
so.
Anybody has a
And
suggestion?
maybe change out a couple photos, so.
And this coincides with the official notification of where Whitefish Bay Dune State Park is in the town of Sevastopol.
And if anybody saw the electronic sign,
Cave
they
Point.
know the answer.
Where's Cave Point?
I think it's in the town of Sevastopol. Okay, well, thank you, Linda, for the hard work, and if anyone needs to get her some information, please either direct it to her or through Amy. And we'll look forward to next month, where Destination Sturgeon Bay will be here to give us their quarterly update and hopefully show us how this can be incorporated into their guide.
Thank
So,
you.
good enough. EMR quarterly updates. We have a gentleman here representing Kurt.
So this puts us about halfway through the year with where our payroll ends and stuff.
Kurt, hang on 1 second. We're going to give you a mic so you can be heard.
All right, is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So this will be like halfway through the year, roughly, is where these numbers are. So to date, we're at 211 calls. Last year, we had 178, so my math's correct, we're right around that 15% up from last year. We had about 80 unanswered calls. Our biggest issue is more towards town and Glen Drive, so if anybody knows anybody in that area, it'd be great to get them on board. Our staffing's more middle north side of the town, so for someone to get there, the ambulance beats us 90% of the time. We're at about 17 EMRs currently. That includes EMTs, some are EMTs, but.
And we're funded for what, 21? Is that right?
I believe so. I believe it's 21.
So are there other prospects that are in the wings, or were these?
I've heard about one, but I have not gotten any phone calls back, so, I mean, if anybody hears anybody of interest, I mean, like I said, Glen area, and we only got one person down by Glen, and he works out of town quite a bit. I'm sure we all know who that is. So. But as far as like town and the south side of Bay Shore, we really don't have any. We know Sturgeon Bay helps us out quite a bit when needed.
Yeah. So you've responded, you mentioned you're at 211 calls, so you guys have responded to 100 plus? 100,
Correct.
110?
Correct. We're at about 61% to response.
As of what date?
Half year.
Half the year. This would be like half the year.
Okay.
Okay. So that is up significantly from the
Yep.
prior couple of years.
Like I said, if
which
my math's correct, that puts me about 15%, but I could be completely off on that, so.
Okay. And where do you guys stand, and maybe Derek, you can fill me in on that too. You were working on the bylaws to update that?
Still working on it. We're adding a lot of more language and procedures of hiring processes, background checks, things like that.
Okay. You guys have a timeline to try and?
By the end of the year.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have questions with respect to the EMRs? As you know, we've budgeted a significant chunk of money for next year for anticipated continued increase. Love to have you respond to 200 calls if it works out. Gladly pay that or more.
Obviously, it's up higher in the summer than it's going to be coming into this season, but
Right.
at least we'd like to see it that way, but.
Okay. Well, that's great. Anything?
Thank you.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
For all you do.
Thanks.
And you're not obligated to stay. If you choose, you want to have, nothing better to do, you can.
Okay.
All right. Fire contract. I think you all saw the note back from Josh, the city administrator, with respect to the contract. We thought at our last month's meeting that this basically was put to bed. And apparently, after a review by a committee at the city, they came back and basically said no to the term, which was 5 years, and I didn't have a problem with 3, 4, or 5. It was my impression that the 5-year term was a preferred term, but 3 is certainly acceptable. I went back with him and countered again. He came back to me and basically came back, I believe, to the same point in time that we were when we started. I have not responded back to his last period, but if you have the table in your packet, their response was they thought the 3-year contract should end at 4/21, which is significantly above where I thought we were. With your input, my suggestion is I'm going to go back on the same table with the 411 number through 2026, which takes us up to a 5.8% increase, which I think is more than healthy, given that my Social Security raise was only 3.2%. So obviously the trend is down. And I feel that the town is paying a disproportionate share of the budget based on the percentage of call activity that we have in the town. And by no means am I trying to undermine the fire chief or the fire department. They do a great job for us. The fire chief is here this evening, so I have absolutely zero issues with that. They've done a great job. They've worked with us. They've solved a lot of problems. I'm just trying to work something out that says this is the way we go, that we as a group are satisfied, and if we're not, the alternative is to basically go where Nassawapi went, which is to start our own fire department, which we've discussed, some or all of us have discussed at different points in time. So I guess I'm kind of looking a little for your direction. And Chief, if you have any comments you'd like to make, I'd be happy to.
Well, I think you've touched on it all.
Okay.
Well, if you look at what the EMRs just told us, they're having a hard time filling EMRs and getting new blood in that, so
right.
I don't think we want to even think about going with our own fire department.
That was kind of where we were when we talked about it a few years back.
Right.
It's, try to fill those positions would be a big issue.
I don't discount that at all. And there's been a core group in the community have wanted to have our own fire department. The issue is the trade-off really becomes one of cost value in terms of where we're at. You tell me what you want me to do, but I'll go back, right now I would tell you I'll go back at the 2026 year-end number of 411 using the same table he's provided me to that point in time for a 3-year term. That would be my suggestion, but I'm open to ideas or thoughts. So, hearing none, hearing something?
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you just could clarify, Mr. Chairman, so for 2024, it would be the $394,869.
Correct.
For 2025, it would be the $402,766. And the city is asking for 2026 to be $421,187. Is that what you're saying?
That's what they felt, and I want to go back with the 411,874, which is the year-end number, or full year number for 20.
And they're okay with the 25 number?
Pardon me?
They're okay with the 25 number?
Well, the last conversation was we would potentially go back to that chart, but drop off 2 years. No. I frankly don't know whether that'll happen or not. I mean, I will offer to go to the, I forget what committee it is, the Finance, Purchase, and Building Committee. I will offer to attend their meeting and state the case. I frankly thought that would have been achieved prior to where we were last month. But
Yeah, well, to me, with the numbers I'm looking at, I don't, unless we can negotiate better if for 27 and 28. We just ended at 26.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Anyone else?
But
She's saying go back.
3 years.
Just 3
Go back
years,
to
yep.
3 year at those numbers.
Right.
Yeah, well, right, less would be great, but that doesn't look like that will happen.
So if I'm looking at this right, that'd be an $18,000 jump from
Yeah.
25 to 26?
Correct.
Why, I mean,
No,
what's
not
happening?
25 to
No.
26.
No.
25 is 402 to 411, 9,000.
Nine.
They want, but no, they want to go to 421.
Oh, correct.
So I'm saying it's
Oh,
18,000.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's why I don't,
18,000
it's not
change. Why,
acceptable to me.
why is it almost double jump in 1 year?
Maybe you have some,
I believe the way that he structured that was, instead of the conversation being percentage per year, I think what he had given you was where the city was hoping to be at the end of that 3-year contract, not meaning that it had to jump any specific year, just taking that total and having it broke apart on how the town wanted to get to that point. So it wasn't designed saying it had to be a large
Actually,
jump
those
1 year.
numbers.
It was just the city in the 3-year term wanted to get to that number again.
Gotcha.
okay.
And leaving it a little bit more open to you to make the determination if there was a better way that the town would want to look at it.
Okay.
So, just so you understand, I'm not here to negotiate in any way.
No,
shape, or
I
form,
understand.
so-
I know.
Yeah, that's not your job.
job.
You're supposed to respond to fires only, okay?
And these numbers are, we used to be based on equalized valuation. These numbers now are based on budget.
Correct.
for the
They've
fire
offered us the
department.
equalized valuation, but at that number, we'd find ourselves in the same hole that Nassau-Waupee would
Right.
if we go that route. And, so, Derek, any?
No,
Okay.
no.
Linda, you're good. Mark, you got, all right. So we'll go back, we'll give them the 3-year number at 411 and see where we track. Good enough. That'll be next. All right. Meeting schedule for next year, always in a state of flux, but does anybody have any particular dates that they know create an issue or a problem? If not, we'll use those as the starting point. No one has a pending vacation, a trip to Hawaii or anything? Okay. Guess you can go with that, Amy. As it stands now, we'll fill in the blanks for the road inspection and everything else as we go. And that'll take that. Sounds good. All right. Town park, restrooms, facilities, et cetera. Some of you are aware that are on the park committee, and I think some of you may be aware from the conversations that we've had that we are undergoing an effort to build new restrooms at the town park. I think actually we covered a little of this last month.
Yep.
We're in the process of requesting some grant from a couple different organizations, as well as using the money that we have budgeted and set aside for this project. And what I brought tonight was just to give you a quick, and nothing overly detailed, quick look at what we are proposing. And a subset of this is if this gets approved and functional, we would hope to remodel or update the concession stand by removing the existing restrooms and enlarging that area as well. And the intention would be to also side the concession stand rather than have a concrete block building. We'd try to make it appear basically identical to this from an exterior perspective, siding, whatever. The key thing here with these restrooms is, one, they double the capacity for the ladies' restroom in terms of stalls. They are wheelchair accessible, and we now have, in the plan, we would have a family room which has a changing table in it, as well as being wheelchair accessible. And one of the things I think that came up at last month's park meeting, although maybe it was here, we will make some modification to the sidewalk so that individuals coming from the parking lot could access this area without having to go all the way to the north end of the parking lot and then travel down the sidewalk to gain access to the restroom concession stand. So it's a pretty basic design. From that, we had a couple of elevations. The one that we seem to be honing in on from an appearance standpoint is the last one, option C, which gives you some natural light. This would be the side facing the parking lot, and the doors would be to the inset to the side, so you'd have protection, and it would give it a better look and appearance. As I mentioned last month, Henry Isaacson is donating his time and his son to work with us on this, and we're still in the process of attempting to get some bids. The third drawing that's in there is just a little sketch of what it would look like, and we would use a fake stone front halfway up, or so a third of the way up the front, kind of make the building look a little nicer.
Did Henry have any, like, ballpark figure on
Yes, he did.
what it would be?
Yeah, the ballpark number's around $200,000 plus. We looked at trying to put two separate restrooms in, one on the north and south end, to accommodate the distance between the fields and the basketball tennis courts. But it's not practical. The distance for the utilities is too far. We'd have to rip up too much of the park to try and to achieve it, and it isn't any less money. So at least that's from their perspective. So we're going to continue to chase this through some grants, and hopefully we'll hear something that will get us maybe an opportunity to start this in the spring if it works out, and if we can find a builder who would like to do it. So, questions?
Would it be advantageous to adjoin that to the concession stand and not have so much piping and plumbing running all over, and make a nice, consistent looking building all together?
We did talk about trying to do that. We had a couple of problems with it. One is that the septic system is adjacent to that building. That whole thing would have to be and utilities. We had issues.
Backside, we got the well, and then where the water connects for all the fields is right behind there.
Are you going to knock out the walls in the current concession
Yep.
stand?
Yep, the
So
bathrooms.
remove the bathrooms, knock out the wall, that will all be concession.
The wall behind the big like walk-in cooler
Right.
will stay there, just so that'll be the barrier for the cooler, so the cooler doesn't have to move. And then we're gonna bump the concession stand, like more of a prep area, big, because when we have tournaments and we have people in there, you're just running, well, you've worked in there,
Oh,
you're
sure.
running past, just make it bigger
Right, it
and
needs
for
it.
storage in the back.
It wouldn't be a monster remodel inside, because we don't want to mess with all of the wiring and everything that's on that south wall. But we didn't have any good sense from Henry, and when he came out to visit the site, that it would be something that we'd want to do.
So where is he proposing to put this?
This
In
would-
relation to the playground and the current concession
It'll be-
stand? Somewhere between that?
It'll be basically closer to the parking lot.
Between the
And-
parking lot and the sidewalk,
Oh,
all
okay.
right, between the two big trees there, sort of in the middle.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
Yeah,
It'd be-
kind of in line with the center of the playground, I guess you'd say, and then
Yeah.
to the south.
What was the total square feet on the footprint?
I don't remember, Linda.
It's
No.
188, approximately
It's on that
188
email.
square feet. Okay.
Yeah, it was in there.
It's on
That
there
doesn't
somewhere.
seem very big. The park is so beautiful, and we want to keep it beautiful. I just don't want to see a mishmash of buildings, a concession stand, a utility shed, bathrooms. We want it to look
We talked about
aesthetically pleasing.
trying to do that with, one of the conversations was knock down 3 walls and leave the south wall, which has the wiring and the closest to where the plumbing is, and do that. But again, it doesn't look like it's feasible.
Well, if you can get the concession stand and these new bathrooms to look similar, I guess that would go along with
It's
it.
pretty much gonna look
Yeah.
like all the buildings we have there now, like all the dugouts. So it's all the same siding, same look.
Yeah, we do not want to stick something nice and then leave what we have there. So that would be the plan, so. All right. So we'll continue to give you updates as we make some progress on this, see where we're going. All right. So the next part of the meeting, this should be interesting. Boy, I have to think about this a second myself. When the school and the town became more closely aligned with the use of the town's facility for the school, in particular the ballparks, there was a list that was created of things that we would like to see in the park that would enhance the park's use for both tournaments and regular play, et cetera, et cetera. And over the years, some of those things have been addressed. For example, we took care of the baseball field, the left baseball field. Last year, we had big drainage problems, and we tried to pick off some of the items on the list. But at any rate, a few months back, I don't remember exactly, 3-4 months back, Brooke, who represents the school from the athletic department, was approached by a gentleman who's anonymous and offered to make a donation. And one of the areas of interest that was high on the list of things we'd like to do was to replace the scoreboards. And this individual came forward and made a very generous donation to allow the school to perhaps pursue placement of new scoreboards on the fields. From that, I'm not sure I can fill the blank in, but it evolved into, let's take a look to see, with this starter money, what could the school, and I'm going to say the school, AKA the Mighty Pioneers, do to achieve most of the things on their laundry list of enhancements. And from that, after a long process, we're basically where we're at tonight. The school, the Mighty Pioneers, and Mark will kind of take us through what the enhancements are, where they are, what they're going to do, how they'll handle and address these things. And our role as a town is to decide if we want to accept these donations as part of the town's park. We are not under any obligation to accept anything. The way the government works is you accept the donation. So we'll listen to what they have to say. The Parks Committee has supported, I think, most of these changes, so this is not something we're looking to not approve. But we also have the ability here to define our expectations in terms of what happens. And we will do that through a donor letter between the group that's going to make these donations to avoid having to go through a lot of additional steps. That group is the Mighty Pioneers, which is a 501c3 group. And so we will create a document between them that sets an expectation for what things we will accept and under what conditions we will accept them. So a simple thing like all the fields that are disrupted will be reseeded and et cetera, brought back to the same state that they were before you started. So that's kind of like the view from 20,000 square feet. And I'll ask Brooke and Tom, who represent the Mighty Pioneers, Brooke the school, and take us through what we have here is way too many sheets of confusing stuff. So you might want to start with a diagram overview and then go from there. Mark, are you able to pull it up?
Yeah. Larry has the diagram, yep.
Mike,
I don't recall getting a diagram.
Yep, you have it.
he's a Mike.
It's in the packet. It was the same map we had last year.
22.
I didn't get it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you send it again?
Yep, I'm going to do it right now.
Well, I guess I can start with the first thing. So kind of piggybacking off of what Dan had said, jointly together we actually did a scoreboard fundraising campaign. We started that in the beginning of June between the school and the town. I facilitated that, and like you said, we ended up having a really nice donation come in at the end, and that this money was intended to be used for two scoreboards at the time. We were really successful, so it made more sense to replace all three instead of having two new ones and a third one that wasn't. It's also more cost effective to do it at the exact same time with freight and installation. So at our last meeting, Park and Rec really had approved to do 3 of those. So what we tried to do was use that money to help us then leverage a Raybrook grant. And so we have written a Raybrook grant on behalf of the Mighty Pioneers that kind of encompasses these enhancements from what we've really felt are a priority from 1 all the way down to really finish all of the things that would really make this a top-notch facility. It's getting a lot more use now than it ever has before with the Mighty Pioneers involved. So, between the school and the Mighty Pioneers, we basically account for 85-90% of the use over there. So we're bringing in the summer, we bring in a lot of different schools. We've started a really successful baseball tournament. And, these are some things on our list that I run into as athletic director, things that I know that could enhance things for us, that Tom has run into as board president. We also co-coach some teams over there. So the first one was installing 3 scoreboards, so that was a price of $53,705. I'm going to have Tom give you the sheet. Just kind of walk you through all of this a little bit faster. Kind of follow along with me. It's really simple.
I believe they all have that sheet.
Is it as intended?
The
What I sent you tonight?
Yep.
Okay, good. That's what I'm going to go through.
There's so many floating around, we should have them stamped new, newest, and newer. Okay.
The second item on there is installing 3 new batting cages. So this was one thing between the school and the park committee that would have been next on our list. After scoreboards, we had talked about installing new batting cages. So we would remove where the current existing batting cages are, which are in between the south field and the baseball field. And those will basically get bumped down the left field fence of that south softball field, and they would run back to back. I don't know if you're able to pull it up.
He doesn't have this part, he has the diagram of, where it's laid out. He has that.
Is that the red bar?
With the red bar.
With the purple, yes.
Off the
I got
south field, Brooke?
Could you go
Can you, can
Yeah,
does
if
it
you
have
can
it?
get the diagram on the
3
screen,
or
I can
4
move
hard
it.
copies of this 11 by 17. Let's just pause for 1 second.
Well,
He has it,
I'll
but
print it from here.
she'll print hard copies so you can look at it. If we get it, we'll get it up there.
So instead of them being next to each other, we now make them 2 single units, basically back to back. We install basically a curbing all the way around that to help keep any quarry wash from spreading out into the grass, creating a nice clean edge along there. Then we would also add a single bullpen up to the north softball field. Currently, when you have multiple teams there right now, somebody doesn't have a place to use, it becomes a safety concern where people are warming up and hitting balls. So that's another item that's on there. That's 3 batting cage installations. In the prices of everything you see here on your sheet, we have included all restoration costs. So to fix the grass, all of that after. This includes all of that. I know one concern, the park has shared before is they don't like seeing all of the small nets laying around the park. This really eliminates that because the batting cages, now you can bat inside of the cages and you can also bat outside of them. They have what are called hitting stations. So if we're able to pull that image up, you'll be able to see that. So kids can be hitting outside of the cage as well as inside of the cage. One thing we notice when we have tournaments or we have weekends where we're pulling double headers, again, there's not a lot of space for people to warm up or to warm up safely because the spectators are so close. So this assists with those things. The next item, and I'll let Tom talk about more the technical side of this one, is on the main baseball field. We're requesting to be able to go back and strip the base paths, basically to turn this field into what we see at Memorial Field in Sturgeon Bay, and removing the grass between the base paths. So I know Tom knows a lot more about the drainage side of that. But you know, couple problems we've run into is being able to roll that field on time. It becomes very, very bumpy. First base gets very worn out from where runners, lead off, and they're ruining the grass in those areas. So what happens for maintenance is you continually have to maintain those base cutouts. And actually, Mitch Anderson would argue, when you go to this dirt stripped infield, there's actually less maintenance involved with these cutouts. We also run into where the shortstop and third base is. There are holes there in the grass that, if they could, you know, they should be repaired yearly, where it gets worn out. So I know Tom knows a little more on the drainage side of these things, but again, from the School of Mighty Pioneers standpoint, it's really making it more playable, and it actually becomes easier to maintain instead of having to go to each individual base, rake around it. You can get on there with your Smithco or golf cart to maintain that a lot better.
Yeah, so you guys used to have that dirt infield, and the type of soil that was there, the town opted for a more playable surface to go to a grass. We would actually have a designed infield mix that is actually made for that task. But back in the day when you did switch it back to grass, is what they kind of ramped up the topsoil and ruined some of the minimal drainage that's out there on the field, and is holding some water yet still in the infield. So by going back to that dirt surface, we can try to keep that continuous grade so the water can drain off of the infield and make it a little bit more playable surface.
Moving on to the next item would be to add some dugouts to that south field. Right now, you know, the way we see it for school in Mighty Pioneers. Sorry, I'm going to go to the south softball field dugout for a second. I think I skipped one. But right now that south field has no dugouts. So when you have a game on the baseball field and that south field, you have balls flying all over the place. So a dugout is something that can at least protect those players that are sitting there spectating the games. Again, it also creates another division between spectator player, spectator coach. And currently right now, you know, we don't have anything like that on the south field. So in our proposal, we would be installing basically open side dugouts, because we realize that from the parking lot, you know, you have lots of grandmas and grandpas that like to view from the parking lot, so they'd be able to see in through the dugout.
Usually the dugouts are horizontal, so you don't have to stand up on one end.
So the purple boxes on your drawings are the dugout locations on each side?
No, that's not this one. Purple is the,
Oh yeah, those are
batting cages.
I'm sorry, the two blue
The
ones.
blue ones.
Can you rotate that image, Gladys?
I'm sorry, what?
Can you rotate that image? Or just bring that one up?
Not easily. Oh, wait, yes, I beg your pardon, here we go. How's that? Is that getting better? There we go.
Yep. So again, the blue squares, and then if you scroll down, it'll be the open concept look that it'll look like.
Yeah, it's not up there. It's the whole page.
We don't
We're
have
just
any more.
focusing on that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just highlight for the benefit of the board, I mean, most of us know, but the red area represents this center of the baseball field that you want to
Baseball
take.
field, that is not the total, that's just the whole baseball field, it's not the
Right.
area. That is not, the area that's getting scun is like a
Right.
diameter around the sides and along the back.
Okay.
And then across from that is the south softball field. It's not easily defined there on that graph. And the two red boxes represent the
Batting cages.
batting cages, excuse me. Those are back to back. There are batting cages there now, right?
So batting cages are currently right here.
Where that dirt.
Close to where the fans, you know, this lighter colored area. This is real close to where the fans kind of watch. Kids are everybody is involved between both games here. So by sliding it down, we did have some complaints at our last tournament of kids swinging the bat real close to where people were spectators were sitting. So moving this down and then keeping it more single file just cleans up that whole area so it's a little bit more.
So if you look at where the dirt is, the dirt kind of rectangular piece there, that's where our current batting cages are. So if you go just to the north of there, there's trees. You can't see the trees there, but there's trees there. So especially in our June tournament, when it's 100 degrees out, everybody likes to sit underneath those trees. And that's the reason why we planted those trees, for the shade. So as Tom and Brooke said, they're warming up right there. Kids are getting ready to go in the batting cage, and mom and dad and grandma are sitting right there. So by pushing that down, further down the outfield, you're going to be less pollution of people around. You know, be way, way more room for people to sit and watch both games, both fields. I'd say 70% of this stuff, maybe 75% of this stuff is enhancing safety for the players and the fans.
And then up here, you know, by the softball field, this is where you'd see basically a similar thing, but it's only one cage. So right now, you know, if your softball team's playing, they're walking all the way down here. It's more convenient really to have it up there. There's just a small grassy area for teams to warm up right here. So this really creates a nice designated spot. Again, we really try to keep in mind, you know, the maintenance of this, not trying to create any more maintenance for anybody. So creating really nice clean edges really helps with that.
Yeah, the cages will actually have, what you said curb, is actually have a concrete curb all around the outside of the cage with the quarry wash inside, so you can just run the lawnmower right over that edge of that curb, so it's clean. They put the cages, the two red lower ones, we're to keep them roughly 7 feet off that softball fence. That way we can get the mower between there. So, you know, we don't have any worry about it. If it's up against the fence and you have a little strip there, we have to try to get in. That way it's for, like I say, again, for maintenance, it just makes it quicker and easier for cutting.
Where did the shed go?
Well, the shed is in the green, that's still in the proposal. Green between them would be, again, aesthetically pleasing looking shed that would match the colors of the dugout.
Because it's not included in your sheet.
Yeah, it's in the batting cage installation price of the $82,000. That's all in there included. In
So here was, yeah, it's not.
It's not a separate item.
Okay.
In that shed would be, you know, at our last park committee, we talked about location for tools, access at, you know, some of the teams. We talked about maybe help maintain some of these fields. So we had talked about, you know, keeping some equipment and tools in there that would be able to be used by the teams to help maintain, rake in the fields as they can. Also would be storage for pitching machines, maybe for the batting cage, or some balls and different things that the teams would have access versus going all the way over to the storage shed and not you guys giving up access or control of your storage shed. Or space. In the wintertime, batting cages could be stored in the building. Just an extra pitching mound that we store that gets used on the south field, small field. It's a bigger thing that we store. You know, potentially the grill that we share with the Cubbies. You know, some of those bigger things could go in there and then not take up space as in the past, right? The Cubbies stored some stuff in your building.
Yep.
I know at our last meeting with the Park and Rec, one of the concerns was if you install a metal building, you get one of those pre-made, well, it could get dented, and we don't want that looking crummy at the park, right? So I know Tom has looked into other options, different kind of siding.
Yep, so again, the siding, and I think Mark and Ryan were able to look at the colors. It's the same type of siding that the dugouts have. Same, we could pick very close, if not the identical color. Trims, everything would look identical, so it would kind of blend in.
Except for the roof.
Well, there
3 different roofs.
we can mix one roof color.
We found out that the dugouts have 3 different color, or 3 dugouts have 2 different color roofs, so. But we just trying to get close enough to. Go ahead.
Is it going to look like this or not? Or is it
Similar.
going to fit nicely between the two
It will fit nicely between the 2 batting cages. It's actually shorter than the width of the red, so it'll be kind of hidden in between those batting cages. And it'll look similar to that, but it won't have the windows. You'll just have the one garage door, so we don't need to have windows broken or other entrance doors. It'll just be the roll-up garage door on one end.
And it'll have wood siding?
Yeah.
It'll have the same, it's a manufactured wood.
The same siding as we have.
Same siding.
Same as what's on the dugout.
Okay.
This is a picture actually of the dugout concept.
Yeah, we
the
saw
roof
it.
chain link fence.
The building's also gonna be on a slab, so that we don't have to worry about down the road. The building comes basically pre-made on runners, but it's gonna be anchored down to a concrete slab, so we don't have to worry about rotting and everything
part
else
of that-
living underneath there.
Part of that project, we need to run some power from the concession stand, and that's part of in that, why the cost of those bagging cages are expensive. We're gonna run 100 amp service to that garage. So that is also gonna give you some flexibility in the future. We're gonna run ours in conduit, all the way instead of buried line like a lot of the stuff in the park is. It gives you a conduit that you can run from the concession stand to that building for future. And also, if you would need to expand off of that building to another part of the park in that location, you're gonna have 100 amp service that you can build off in the future. We're just trying to get basically an outlet to each batting cage for the pitching machines. But again, there'll be some surplus power there if needed in the future, just to kind of plan ahead.
So I want to go back to the storage building if I could. So this storage building's pre-made, going to be dropped on the site, and then the carpenter's going to come along and bolt it.
No,
Right.
the people that build the building, they will rent the day they deliver.
And then someone's going to come along and put siding on it, because this was a metal building.
No, they went with a
You
different.
guys
company.
suggested that change, so we made that change.
Okay, I'm trying to get caught up on where we
Yep.
were. Okay, so it's not going to be a metal, I don't care what's inside, but outside.
Our recommendation, we got at your park meeting, you guys preferred that material, so we made that change.
Okay, that would be good. The only thing we have to do is figure out if we can deal with it.
And we have the various color swatches, so if approved, we could bring it to you and you could say, what
Well,
colors,
question-
what do you want this to look like?
Yeah, the question would be whether we go with the dugout color or we try to match what we hoped it would be eventually the concession stand restrooms, but either way. at
Yeah,
least it would-
there's probably 10, 15 different colors.
Okay. All right, well, that answers one of the concerns.
That-
Brian, go ahead.
So this is not, I thought that the dugouts have siding on it, like cedar siding or something.
Well, the dugouts that you guys have, you did enclose them. You had several different models. On the north field, you had enclosed ones. The south baseball field, you used to have open ones with windows so people could see through.
Right.
You guys went to the closed version in that one as well. The reason why we chose open sided on these dugouts are, Grandpa and Grandma like to park.
We're getting there.
Right,
We're coming.
yeah, I see.
So,
Right.
There we go.
up here.
Sorry?
Grandma and Grandma like to park with the cars right along
Yeah.
here, watch, and still be able to see through. People sit around behind here.
The
Again,
bleachers are kind of right behind
Being able
that.
to see the balls flying
The
through
other
from the other
dugouts
side.
then, so that they're all the same?
No.
No. The ones that are enclosed stay enclosed.
Yes, we
yes.
just spent money to get all those.
So,
closed.
this one, again, we'll pick the roof color that best matches, but then the trim on there would be matching the dugouts that are there now.
So if you guys want to go see these, those dugouts are up at Egg Harbor's hardball field, their county league field. They have that style dugout there.
But the siding on all of the dugouts could be the same color.
Yes.
It is.
They will be as this,
Except
as
not
this.
this, no,
shed.
the shed, yes, the shed will be the same
Everything will
color.
be the same color. Because I do love to paint.
No paint needed, it's big back
If you
finish
need
on.
paint.
I heard that. We all heard that.
There was also a discussion, Ryan's here tonight, by the way, and Ryan's the vice chair of the park committee. And I asked him and Mark to sit down and go through all of this stuff and check out the sites. There was a discussion on moving the cages as part of the field.
Yep.
My concern with some of this is, I'm not against what you want to do, but I also don't want to turn our park into a giant ball diamond. And so some of the things that you're proposing, I think we got to figure out how to integrate them a little better. So especially when you look at the north field where that batting cage would go, basically takes up most of the green space that's there. It also, to me, narrows up when you get to the north side access for the pickleball tennis courts. So I know you guys talked about it. I don't know where that is, so I'm curious to hear.
We did settle on moving it back closer to the dugouts.
So the exact details of all of this don't have to be worked out like tonight.
No, but they have to be worked out before we give them a donor letter, so
Yep.
we will accept it.
Yeah, but I mean, the location, they actually get there to do the things, and we can move it 5 feet this way, 6 feet that way.
Yeah, so we, from our first meeting, our first
We moved.
proposal, we
Okay.
actually moved it closer to the dugouts, closer to the.
Closer to the batting cage,
the
or the
bullpen
bullpen.
area.
But the
So that-
stakes that are there are inaccurate.
Currently, they're accurate, yep. I mean,
They are accurate?
The ones that are there today, or this last week, yes.
Are you talking about this little red square?
Yes.
On the north field? You're talking about
Yes.
this?
Yeah, and there's still, I would say, mid-20s worth of feet of access. You know, the concern was make sure the ambulance could get to the pickleball courts, that the walking trails and stuff weren't damaged and stuff. There's still the access from the parking lot to the pickleball court. There's still quite a bit of width there yet.
I thought we were talking about the possibility of incorporating them rather than having a standalone. Was that not a discussion at the park?
Well, I think we're looking at talking about two different things. So I think what originally the bullpens, which we didn't get a chance to discuss yet, they're the purple lines. Those were going to be on the outside of the fence, and we incorporate them into the field per the committee's request.
Okay. So
The batting cage was always a standalone for that north field to get some access to a batting cage for that field. It was originally way out here, right next to the path. And again, we slid it back down to within probably 10 feet of the bullpen location that's on that field now. So
You think it's too close?
I think it just takes up a lot of our green space there, and it's too close. I'm not a major baseball player, but, you know, I would wonder, is there a better location? Maybe not better, I think that, is there a different location? Could we put it in back of? Would it make sense to put it back by the scoreboard? I know it's not convenient, or move it in back. It just seems to me that it takes up too much of the available space that we have there and the green space, and then we just end up with another cage. I don't have an issue with the other ones because they're marked between two fields, and they're not predominant.
Oh, yep, and so these cages would have a concrete border, so they'll be able to be cleaned and maintained around them. We did look at several other locations. We had pros and cons when Brooke and I first started walking around. We also walked around with Ryan and Mark. We had talked about potentially over here by the playground and by the tree area. One, the wetlands is prohibitive because of it's not really wetlands, it's a localized wet area.
It's a low spot.
Yeah, so, I mean, to fill that in, cut some down trees, but you still got kids running around. If you ever want to expand the playground, you take that space away. You can get out into the outfield area here. I'm going to tell you, once you get too far away from where the team benches are and locations are, teams aren't going to use them. They're just going to sit out here anyway and bring their tents and pop them up. So, you know, in a tournament or anytime a high school event, anytime there's games going on here, this whole grass area has activity in it with people popping up nets that they won't have to now, and they're throwing, they're hitting fly balls, they're hitting grounders. So that whole area gets used up. You know, that's why we decided to stay up farther down the line, but as close as we could, get close to the fence. That one is set out 7 feet. We could slide that one in closer to the fence. Becomes a little bit of a maintenance thing where you're probably going to have to spray because we can't get right tight to the fence. But we can definitely suck it into the fence to give you that mindset. Now, just remember, a lot of this stuff so this concrete curb is literally, you know, pretty close to ground grade or a little bit up, so you can trim around it. But the net itself, so that those stakes are 25 feet wide, the nets themselves are about 18 feet wide. The space on the outside would be where hitters are standing, hitting into those nets. So it's not like the whole thing is as wide as what it appears to be staked. Most of that's going to be ground down to ground level, or close to ground level. It's kind of we have a border defined area where they practice, but the actual structure of the net is 15 and the hitting stations are another 3 feet. So it'd be 18 feet is really what the structure would look like. The stakes out there now are 25 foot wide.
Well, the one thing we could do is, I mean, I don't think it'll affect the cost at all. If you want, we could put it right tight to the bullpen.
Yeah, you go right tight to the bullpen, right tight to the
right
field
to the
fence,
fence.
and tuck it in that corner as tight as you can.
I'd move it in as close as you can.
Ultimately, my 2 cents on it is, could you put it back? I suggested it, meaning that there were fields that had them behind. Did they get used? If you put the effort in, but I feel like just walking the fence lines now, you can see how many teams are still hitting balls into the fences and how dented they're getting.
Yeah.
And this should dramatically reduce that. But if you tuck it somewhere back where maybe there's gonna leave more green space here, but they might not use it, and they might continue to just hit balls against the fence. And, I mean, I think, yeah, we could get it back there, and it probably would still get used to some extent, but maybe not as much as if it were closer to where.
Well, I think if we push it up against the fence, that would overcome some of it and give you a little bit. I don't think we gain anything by having 7-foot wide piece of grass in between.
No.
For whatever it's worth, we'll spray it. Or you'll spray it.
Or
You'll spray it.
A little or more.
The one thing too is if you keep it where, if you keep it on this side where you have it, where we're 10 feet this way or that way, both teams will use it. If you put it around behind, you're gonna have the team on the first base side using it, and you're gonna have the other team hitting against the fence, putting their nets up, and, this is close enough where it's gonna get used by both teams before the game.
I also think it creates a little bit of separation between the people using that pickleball court. Some kids might not want a bunch of young kids back there, or a tournament of teams messing around back there when they're trying to enjoy that pickleball court as well.
Okay. So, I mean, as far as cost-wise, that shouldn't affect it one iota if we put it up against the...
No, not us against the fence. We have to stay because of the solitude side for the uprights, a little bit away, but, yeah, we can tuck it definitely right in that corner. Yeah, no, that wouldn't change the cost.
Killing the grass.
Yeah. Just a little bit more maintenance along the fence there.
Yeah, we'll just have to side cut that and maybe put Cory wash there or something too, so it's easy to spray me down with it. We'll figure it out.
And then you want
Yeah, we'll go back to the baseball pitching bullpen. So on here, that's where you see purple. This is kind of a week old now already. So we originally had pitching bullpens kind of coming out from the side of the field. They would only be 3-sided, and we did that so that maintenance could be able to come in, swoop in there, and mow at the same time. But in talking at the last Park and Rec meeting and with Ryan and Mark, we really did decide to move it inside the playing area and enclose it all the way in. We did get a new cost on that, so I believe it adds about $927 to what we originally had. But really, our reason for doing this is, again, safety. There really is no safe place for kids to warm up right now. They're either warming up, in foul territory here, or they may be going out here, but again, they could be warming up and they're throwing the ball into where fans potentially are. Nobody uses right now where the mound is. That's out here, way back here. And we feel the reason why they're not doing that is it's so far away. So if you're a coach and you're trying to coach and you want to watch a kid warm up, well, that's really kind of hard to do when they're way out there. So there was a lot of usable space inside of the field already. And so that was one suggestion Park and Rec had made. And we've got some updated costs on that. So we would like to install those bullpens on the inside, and they basically butt up to the dugout. And we would install a permanent mound and a permanent home plate in there, and then around those areas would be dirt.
There will be a 3-foot opening, so I'm assuming hopefully you have a walk mower, because to keep the grass in there would make it look cleaner. So we would have 2 dirt areas, small dirt areas where the plate and the mound are, where they're going to wear them. And then the stretch in the middle would remain grass. Otherwise, we'd be constantly spraying weeds like you notice on the north field that would happen in there, all dirt. And the erosion of dirt. Again, now most of these things are all designed for not only player safety, fan safety, and try to reduce or clean up the maintenance part of it and to make it a better road. The concrete borders, again, around the around everything, allows us to have clean grass planted up to every one of those borders. And, you know, like if you walk around the old batting cages now, the Cory wash kind of spills out and whatever, and this would be a place to contain that, or a way to contain that material.
So in your estimates, you said everything, what kind of holdback, I guess, for lack of a better word, do you have to repair everything so that it's back to where it was?
So we have, in every number of every project, there is a restoration item that we actually have bids from a contractor that will come and clean it up. You know, we're going to try to salvage some sod off the baseball field. Mitch asked, or said he would come out with a sod cutter. So if we can lay some sod in, great. If we can save some off the baseball field. But everything is figured to be topsoil seeded and mulched with clean dirt, clean it up, and have that all done as the project is completed. So again, if we can utilize some of the sod off the baseball field and put in like that electrical trench maybe that's going to get run down here and some of that so we don't have the mud in the spring.
That's what I'm thinking is,
you know,
if you can't, then you ought to
so
go
around,
with sod.
yeah, around some of these little dugouts and some of the finer stuff, we may end up having to seed those areas. But, you know, we have full intention to try to salvage enough sod to hopefully try to restore a lot of that stuff back in the sod.
I would ask that you use sod wherever there's going to be a high traffic area versus seed. It takes so long for the seed to come in and fill in, and it turns, you know, you get a bad day, you got mud footprints and everything else in it, and there's not, I don't think there's that much area that you have to deal with, but some of
Yeah,
those
so the old batting cage area, for example,
right.
that might be an area that we might just have to try to get the grass to grow there. You know, if we got to stake it off and ribbon it off until the grass gets established.
And that's not
You would have to
traffic
salvage
area.
a lot of sod to cover that. But like the
And then,
trench coming from the concession stand out to the building here, you know,
Yes.
my intention is to try to put sod off the baseball field into that trench. Same with the trench that goes from here to that to get power, is again, to try to utilize some of the ball field sod. I do want to harvest enough that even maybe I can get around the dugout and get a lot of those areas sod. That would be our absolute goal, because we got instant grass, right? It's just got to attach and go. But, you know, there's going to be, naturally, there's going to be a few areas that we're going to have to seed more.
Is there going to be power on that north?
Yeah, we're going to get an outlet from the existing 110 here. We got to have an outlet to that batting cage for running a pitching machine.
Just 110?
Yeah, just the 110 outlet.
I think the really neat thing about this project that we've experienced in getting bids is everybody really wanted to be a part of it. We have a lot of parents that are Mighty Pioneers that are already in some kind of skilled trade. So they're a builder, they're an electrician, they're a plumber, they're whatever, and they're good guys that want to jump in, they want to help you do it, they want to donate their time. They have kids in the program, they live in our community, and they really want to see it through. So I think, you know, we can have a lot of confidence in the people that are vested in this project that will do a really good job. And I know Tom and I will make sure we would be the eyes on this project, of course, seeing it through.
We literally have around $26,000 worth of in-kind donations from either businesses or contractors or parents or coaches or stuff that can perform this work that are going to donate towards the labor or some savings to the projects that are, you know, so those projects would be $26,000 more yet from where these numbers we're looking at without those donations.
So, I know you're going for grants and you've got a healthy ask. What if you are not funded? Which one of these projects falls off the list? What's the...
Well, we really got to look at what the grant process gives us, right? So if they give us partial, we'll have to look at which ones we can try to maximize the projects with what they give us, right? So
there's not a priority other than scoreboards that you want to pick off one over the other?
yeah, I mean, I think priority-wise, I think Brooke had them kind of listed, but I think there were.
Yeah, batting cage was our first priority after the scoreboards. And then after that was the just how you see them on your sheet. So that really is the order we hope to do it. But if we find out we only get 40,000, well, we can't do that first one, second one on your list.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else?
We really went through the process when we went through, there was another document you guys probably got, and we saw numerous bids for almost every facet that's out there. We really went ahead and tried to look at what hazards are out there as far as the power lines and try to know where they are, find the water lines, do all that advanced work so we don't have a lot of, one, we know where they are so we don't damage them, and two, don't add extra cost into the project for that. So we really have vetted this thing and thought it through right from disturbing the soil right to planting it back into solid grass.
Okay. Yes.
Could you briefly touch on the team benches and the fence over at the church? I assume that's on the corner.
Yep, so maybe you may have noticed Mighty Pioneers a year ago, we were, or was it 2 years already? Yep. We wrote a grant in conjunction with some other projects that were happening, and we were able to put up all new fencing at the church field through the permission of the church. We do utilize that. Believe it or not, we have enough baseball games that go on here that we don't have enough room on some nights where we got to play games. We practice down there. So the school had some excess benches when they redid their stadium, so those sit back there now by the backstop. But the teams really don't have a bench. The benches were inside the fence, and for younger kids, not as safe. So we are, part of that grant is to buy aluminum benches that are movable like the bleachers, and then one would be, one on each side would be a team bench. And then the other part of that grant also is portable fence like the school puts in on the north field, softball field. That would be a portable fence so that you have a confined or a complete baseball field, right? So we actually used it in the tournament. We played 3 or 4 games down there, as well as full use of all these fields. So, and then we've had probably league nights. We probably had maybe 2 or 3, 4 nights down there of league games as well.
Do you lease that from the church?
We don't. We have an agreement that they, we're kind of combined with the school that have an agreement to use it. So.
Yeah, and obviously that has nothing to do with,
right.
Well, we don't have to okay that part because that's theirs.
We showed you everything that we sent the grant. That's what's all this project.
Are you looking for letters of support to go with your grant then?
Oh, well, the grant's already submitted. The Parks Committee did, or the town through the Parks Committee gave us the blessing. They agreed with the concept, right? So that was able to make us go ahead and apply for the grant. And tonight what we're looking for is your approval of accepting the donation so that whatever it is when we get that grant, we're ready to get the ball running. Our intention is, if Mother Nature provides the weather, and right now it looks like it, but our intention would be to get some of these things done yet so that it can be put together, back together, so spring, when the school goes out to use it, it's all put back together and not that mess.
Okay.
So I guess if there's anything you don't agree with on here or wouldn't want to see done, that's something we would want to know now.
Really? Ryan, do you have anything else you want to add since you saw everything?
No, I mean, I just, as a ball player, I think these are all excellent suggestions and improvements to the park that, generations will be able to use, and I think skinning the ball field is a great idea. I was kind of happy to hear that they were looking back into it, not only because I think it's better to play on, but it's also better to take care of, and which I took care of that field for a few years in my day too. So, no, I was hoping to see if there'd be a way to get one of the 3 batting cages somewhere between the north field and the baseball field, just so that they were more spread out and kind of easily accessible for maybe you have a game going at the north field and both teams can then use a cage or the baseball field again, where there's kind of some separation there. We looked at it and it's just so low over there by those trees in between where the pavilion and the ball field is there. I just don't think. I mean, you could maybe do something, but it's going to cost a lot to backfill everything and try to, you'd have to take a bunch of those pines down, which I'm partial to doing, but, I mean, that would have been the only thing that I thought could improve this project, would be to have a, 3 of them spread out like that, just for ease of use and stuff, but again, it's, the cost would probably be too much for that.
Yeah, and that was one of our first locations we looked at, and in the combination of the low area and kids by the playground and potential expansion of your playground, that would take away any option to expand the playground.
So one last thing I want to say real quick. They got like top of the line stuff. We didn't go with like run of the mill stuff that we're gonna have to be changing out in 5 years because it's garbage. They went with very good batting cages, very, everything. They went very, not the most expensive,
Quality.
but very high quality stuff, so we don't have to worry about in a few years trying to replace this stuff. So by going with the grant, we can spend a little more money, hopefully to get the grant.
Yeah.
So we can have a little bit better quality stuff. I mean, it's all really good stuff they're putting in.
And this is really an opportunity that we may never have again, is leveraging that big donation funds of $66,000 or whatever it will to be, to leverage those funds to get more projects done through the process.
And I don't know how well up to speed everybody is on the climate of youth baseball and softball in our county, but it used to all be in Sturgeon Bay, and all schools and teams would go there and play games. That's not how it works anymore. That changed just a couple of years ago, so it's really school and community based now. So that's likely to stay for a really long time. Same thing with tournament team baseball. That's something that's just, that's all over the nation. It's all over the state now, and you see us doing it too. So we're really trying to create a facility that can maintain the baseball and softball for a really long time here.
Any other comments? Gary, you were here for a reason. What was that reason?
So listen, I just have one question. You mentioned the maintenance down the line. Who's going to take care of that in 10 years or 15 years or whatever? On your cages and stuff.
Well, as in anything that the town owns or anybody uses it, right? Things do wear out. Things need maintenance. We don't have any maintenance facets built into this project at this point. But if the town came to us 10 years or 5 years down the road and said, hey, our batting cages are shot, would we help partner to maintain some of that stuff? Absolutely. We're a user of that park, and you guys actually give us the blessing, through the partnership with the school to use this facility. And again, I'm not saying we're going to say no. If we can afford to help at that time, we will most certainly help with whatever we can to keep the facility nice. Because again, this premier facility, it will be one of, if not the best in the county. So.
I think they were thinking ahead with that stuff too, and it kind of shows in the type of stuff they're suggesting, and like the cages, and for instance, the ease of putting them up. They're not easy to put up now, and they're not easy to take down. They're putting up a system that one person probably can do. So, they're going to be able to be put up and put down with a lot more wear and tear on them. They're going with a system where the actual bottom of the cage is going to be tethered to the ground, and with the concrete curbs, there's not going to be any chance that a mower is going to start eating up the bottom of the cages, which we've had in the past, because it runs up next to grass. So, I think hopefully, a lot of the stuff they're thinking ahead on that is going to limit that maintenance. But, things are going to break down over time as far as cages and stuff go, just like the ones today would. But, as far as that, I think a lot of the stuff they're doing, I don't think they're adding much maintenance. They're, and what little they might be adding, I think some of it is being taken away with just some of the other stuff they're doing as far as, again, going around the cages is not going to be as tedious. Doing the field shouldn't be as tedious, should be quicker. So there's a little give and take. But the way I see it, in the end, I think maintenance-wise, it should be easier to take care of. And I'm not sure about cost down the road as far as you're going to have a little bit more field mix that you're probably going to have to use over the years. As far as that goes with the bigger, skin baseball field, but I don't know. I'll do some
part of this process, the single greatest thing in my mind is restoration of the park. And I know that you've incorporated that in there, but before I would move ahead, I would tell you that I want you to set aside some amount of cash, 5, 10 grand out of this, and it stays there until the park is 100%.
I can probably tell you what we got set aside already.
No, I want it set aside outside of what you're doing. In other words, I want
Like an ESSER fund or something?
inevitably, pardon me?
Like an escrow fund?
Like an escrow fund, inevitably, and I'm not trying to place any blame, but something's gonna happen, and it's gonna fall back on the park and the town to take care of that. And, you know, I expect that's gonna happen in anything, but I wanna make sure that there are some funds sitting there that haven't been spent for this project, that if we need to go do this or that, we're gonna take that money out of that fund, you know, and we're gonna get it done. And
I can tell you we have funds, excess funds that we can do something with. But I can also tell you that I'm not walking away from this project if it's left dirt or mud or whatever.
And I appreciate that, Tom. I'm just saying that I have to respect, you know, have to take a look at what the town is responsible for. I got 2 employees, you know, one of which is a student in the school and one in Forestville or somewhere, Southern Door. Gary has decided he took the golden lawnmower seat and took off, retired. But I have to make sure, I really want to have some dollars escrowed, set aside, that says if something goes wrong and we need to fix it, we use those funds to address that concern. And whether that's 10% of your project or 5 grand or 10, I don't know what that number is. But that's, to me, that's the primary condition I have that I would attach to our saying, go ahead.
And just, could you step away from the screen? Just to restate a little bit too about part of our restoration bid. So they gave us firm bids to restore these things. So if they leave a mud hole or something there, they have to fix that before we're going to accept it to be able to give it to you guys, right? So those things are kind of built in this bid process, as well as we really literally thought, we stood out there one night for an hour saying, what can physically go wrong here? What could we damage that would be an extra cost that's going to, so we're not building like you see contingency put aside for a building project because you're building brick and mortar, so to speak, right? You're building up. It's easy for change orders to come because you want to add a closet here or a wall there or a door here or a window there. We're basically working at ground level. And none of this stuff is structural in nature, like a parking lot, for example, where you rip a parking lot apart. If the base was bad, all of a sudden you got to dig it apart. Most of this stuff just kind of floats on the ground. So the biggest damage or thing that's anywhere in this park that we could hit is the ball field lighting. And actually, by moving the dugout or the 2 bullpens inside the fence, move all of our projects basically away from that lighting. So I can assure you that there's very little things that can go wrong with this project. Yes, we have some extra change orders already that we're going to chew up as part of our club based on the relocation of the batting cages that you guys recommended. It's going to cost us about another $1,000 to do that, but we're going to do that because you guys want it. That's how you'll accept it, right? So I'm in agreement. We can put a few dollars in account or wherever you want. Keep in mind we're a 501c3 nonprofit. And we're going to, again, we'll stand behind this whole project and not give it to you until it's complete. But we can't put $20,000 into an account somewhere, or we're going to stop operating as our youth sports club as well. So, will we be able to withstand some of these extras? Yes, based on a few things. That there is, for example, we had probably $18,000 worth of electrical work bid in from a contractor. One of our parents are going to do this thing for 10. So there's some money still in there that's in this grant that we can juggle if there some extras come up along the way that we generated from how we're going to do things on this project.
Mr. Chairman, would you be okay when you look at the list here that's in our packet, Town Park Sports Facility Upgrade, Scope of Work, under each list, it says restore all disturbed areas with topsoil and grassy. Restore all disturbed areas with topsoil and grassy. sod all grass access areas that require grass, restore disturbed areas with topsoil and grass seed. So in every part of this project, they say they are going to restore everything. To me, I'm confident with, if this gets included in the okay, I'd say that's enough, but that's my 2 cents.
So you're referring to this document?
Well, like,
The
you're looking
town.
at the screen, I'm
Yeah.
looking at
Page 20, that's fine. Well, I leave it up to the board. My concern, I have no issues with this other than I personally would like to see some contingency dollars or escrow set aside. Doesn't have to be $1 million, but something that says if something goes wrong, we've got the money to repair it, fix it, replace it, whatever, without having to go in and go back and forth about who does what to whom. It's just done. That's my perspective, but go ahead.
Well, you must feel comfortable that whatever contractors you're using, you're not going to pay them until the job is
Absolutely.
done correctly, correct?
This isn't my first rodeo
Right,
running
exactly.
a project, so, whether you guys liked it or not, I said it at the last meeting, you kind of, because I'm involved, you've kind of hired a project manager to watch this project, so,
Incorporate this in.
it's gonna be right when we're done.
With
Because
your
my
ex-
name's behind it.
Right, your
The other
expertise.
contractors are on
Yeah.
behind it, so
Exactly.
I'm not gonna throw my name out in the mud for
Right.
not having something complete.
And I think the people we'd awarded to, they're certainly not going to do that to us.
So, it's your call. I give you my 2 cents, so you guys can decide what you want to do, and we'll orchestrate something from there.
Well, if the Park and Rec Board is okay with it,
I mean, the only thing I thought of yet would be like long-term. You know, you were saying contingency, I don't know if that's up until completion or post-completion. Things can go wrong after the project's done, you know, things can get, I don't know, whatever, maybe one of the poles falls over and takes out a fence. I mean, not likely, but, you know, things can happen. So like, that would be the only thing is that I don't think we have really discussed yet is once the project's complete, once everything's done, you know, how is the upkeep, how is the, you know, what if something happens to the shed? You know, like, at that point, where does the responsibility lie? I don't think we really talked about a lot of that stuff yet. It would be the only thing.
Well, the one thing is, I mean, obviously you have warranty. Your work is warranted, you know, and all that, so they'll come back obviously and fix it. But by us accepting this, it's now ours, and we take that responsibility on to do the upkeep.
Well, we take the responsibility once it's done, and that's why I go to the contingency or escrow, whichever we're just comfortable with. That says we set something aside so that post something happens, whatever, you know, we have something there to address it. I just don't want to be caught where our 2 guys are now trying to do something that is above and beyond what they're chartered to do every day. I don't want them having to go out and, you know, reseed everything, worry about, I mean, just, it's, you know, so that's it. Otherwise, I'm 100%.
I personally am not worried about that one bit. I come from this, Todd, we come from the same cloth. I mean, this is what we do for a living. And, I mean, if something goes to hell when I'm done with my job at the end of the day, a year from now, and it goes, I gotta go back and fix it. I don't let the homeowner, you know, I'm personally, I'm not worried about it. These 2, they have kids there. Half the people over there have kids that are playing out there that are on these committees. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna be up there, you know, I'm really not concerned about it. And like you say, these guys, we know everybody that they're hiring to do the work, and we have people that are, like Tom said, we're getting free labor, we're getting free work from a lot of these people. They're not gonna walk away from it because their name's gonna be right on it. I'm not concerned one iota.
Okay.
we're just talking about items, scoreboard, bullpens, dugouts. We haven't addressed this gift agreement, correct?
Right.
This is separate. So this is, we're just looking for our approval that you can go forward with.
What we would do is if the board agrees that this is what you want to do, if you have anything that we haven't discussed that needs to be put into a document, then we would add it to this document and say, you're authorized to go do this, we'll accept it with the following conditions. They are this, this, or that. So we would take and use the scope of the work, for example, could be an attachment to the letter, and any other conditions that we feel are appropriate, and add it to that document. And then that document would then go to the school as an approval from the town that we would accept the donation, or the donation.
For instance, you mentioned recommended using sod
Right.
instead of seed. Is that something that we're going to have to
It could be.
add as a condition? Or?
If that's what you think, if that's what you feel we should do, then we should make that a condition of the agreement, which is, yes, they're going to salvage as much as they can, but we would prefer sod. That could be one of the things. If you thought a contingency made sense, you could put it in here. If it doesn't, you don't have to. But whatever it might be, something, you know, the buildings must be identical in color or whatever. If we can get as detailed or as undetailed as you want, it's just the only document that will guide them in what they're doing in our park. And we have to be able to fully support and accept what they're doing. Once we give them the go-ahead, it's theirs. It's their project in our park. I look at it a different way, and I think I mentioned it in one of these meetings. I don't know how you'd feel, Brooke, but our park committee is going to go over and we're going to resod the football field. You know, you'd be a little nervous in terms of it's your field, and we're not your employees. And by the way, we're going to make it right, okay? So you got to flip that and say that's the issue we're dealing with here. Once we give them the go-ahead, they basically have carte blanche to do whatever in our park, and then we have to formally accept it, and whatever it is what we got.
Is that acceptance of the upon completion, or you give us the formal to go ahead and work on the projects in your park?
Right.
Your actual acceptance wouldn't be upon completion.
Correct.
So you guys would, to simplify what he's saying, is you can add to the scope of work some reasonable terms, right?
Right.
That we could make sure that we incorporate into our work that we're trying to complete. Again, I would ask that it's reasonable and not crazy. So,
right.
But again, I don't think there's anything. This is not like building a new bathroom facility.
We'll get to you on that later. No,
Well, then my second, very well vetted. Well, my second thought is it's a given, or it should be a given, that all necessary permits will be obtained, and the work will be performed by licensed and the proper personnel, that they have all the electrical, plumbing, or whatever qualifications to do that, and in a manner and standards acceptable by the Uniform Dwelling Code or the Commercial Code or whatever, right?
Yeah, and all that is part of that. All the contractors I've talked to are aware, such as the electrical contractor is aware that he needs a full permit. We actually talked to the building permit people of your town, and they said no building permit necessary for the dugouts. The only one that is out there, and I don't know if I can get it or if the town has to get it, but through the county, you will need that one-time permit for the dugouts probably. Because you're adding a structure. I don't know if I can get it on behalf of the town or how that works.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Zoning.
Yeah,
Zoning department.
Yeah.
County zoning permit.
County zoning, yeah.
And then, we have again, we have contractors that are parents that'll be doing the work, and again, they can't work for their company and do, not work that's not up to code.
Okay. And those are the kinds of things that we would do.
We
should delineate.
Yeah, either have a memorandum of understanding or something like
That's
that.
a good point.
Yeah.
Memorandum, yeah.
Yeah, I would ask if you need to reach out to us or myself before you put anything major in there that would have cost implications, that we can at least, all right, does this fit the program or that kind of stuff? Again, I don't see anything out there that would that stick out, you know, unless you said, well, we gotta have sod on everything. That might be tough to do, but we would definitely try to do the majority of the restoration with sod. But just know that if you move something here or there, sometimes it has cost implications, right? Like we moved the bullpens from the outside to the inside, that added just shy of $1,000 to do that. So if you do any of that kind of stuff, I would ask that you reach out to us to kind of work out something together on that.
Could we approve it or give our stamp of approval conditioned upon a memorandum of understanding that is agreeable
We could do
between
that by
both
both
parties?
That's a good
Something like that,
approach. Yeah.
Yep, we could do that.
with some conditions and.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to handle it.
So just to be sure, you guys would draft up the memorandum of understanding and, because again, we're hoping timing works out that we get started here in another little over a week, so.
Okay. Is there any other ads that, while you're sitting here, as a gigantic brain trust that we want to put on here? Other than the scope of work and the things that Linda has mentioned?
Do you want a contingency? A small-
If there, well,
a-
that's up
a
to you
fund?
guys at the board. I've expressed
Well,
mine, but you
I haven't-
can make that, somebody has to make a motion and decide where to go and what you want to do with it.
Mr. Parks, Mr. Parks, make a motion.
I don't know if everybody's done talking yet.
No, make a
I
motion.
think we
see where it
beat this
goes.
horse pretty dead. I make a motion to accept the plan by Mighty Pioneers with the scope of work involved, with a future memorandum of understanding of finish of the project, at finish of project. Amy, can you make that sound pretty for me?
I probably can.
Thanks.
You want to repeat that?
No.
Amy should be able to.
I can't make it sound pretty right away.
Oh,
A motion by Hayne to accept the plan with the scope of work involved, with a memo of understanding upon finishing the project. But that's not quite right.
No,
That's
I
not
want the
quite right.
memorandum of understanding prior to the start of the project.
Prior to the start of the project.
agreed upon by both parties.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so we have a second on that?
Second.
Second, so any more discussion before we decide where to go here? Are there any other ads? You're all comfortable that we don't need a contingency or an escrow?
If Mark's comfortable, I'm comfortable.
Okay. Any other discussion on anything else relative to this? All right, so we have a motion on the floor from Mark and seconded by Derek to create a memorandum of understanding with the school / Mighty Pioneers.
It's all Mighty Pioneers.
That's all, yeah.
It's all
Mighty
right.
Pioneers. Yeah, only Mighty Pioneers.
Only
Sorry,
Mighty.
only Mighty Pioneers.
I just happen to be involved.
Okay, and so are we. We just happen to be involved. To allow for the enhancements to the park as described in their donation request of 10/2/23 tonight. All right. So with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't hear any opposition. Looks like the motion carried. It'll be a few days before you get the MOU, so do not start digging.
No,
Okay.
we won't,
We haven't heard back yet, so.
All right, okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. No, we'll use an MOU instead. It's the same basic concept. I'll work through it. All right, where are we here?
Financial reports.
Ordinance and resolution.
Ordinance and resolution.
All right, thank you. All right, financial reports, you have in your packet the account balances, the budget versus actual January through September, and the transaction list by date. You've had those, so you should be up to speed on those. Amy, you have a few things you want to share with us?
Yep. We received our fourth quarter general transportation aids. The proposed 2024 budget is available for viewing on our website under the budget tab, and the public hearing for that 2024 budget will be Monday, November 27th at 6 p.m.
Okay, great, thank you. We need a motion to approve the financial reports.
I'll move to approve the financial reports for September of 2023 as presented.
Motion by Linda, second by?
Second?
Second by Jeannie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes, thank you. Approval of vouchers, bills, and claims. I think everybody had a chance to sign those, so a motion to approve would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers, bills, and claims from September 19th, 2023 through October 16th, 2023.
Motion by Mark, second by,
Second?
oh, Derek, Jeannie, sorry.
Sorry.
Second by Jeannie. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. All right. Okay, oral committee reports. We do have one thing that I threw in there just to make Jeannie happy, which was broadband status. Maybe you could give us a quick
Thanks, Dan.
update. I know you.
Mr. Chairman, you are just wonderful, and I thank you for this opportunity. So, we're moving along, the contract between the town and AT&T is in process. We are working on the Capital Projects Fund grant now, and we'll continue to, that's due before September 7th. And
Before September 7th?
I'm sorry, before November 7th.
Okay.
Going backwards. So that's where we're sitting right now.
Okay. And we have not yet heard back from Amy Sullivan on the contract, so.
That's what we're waiting for, I guess.
I will check with her tomorrow.
Yeah.
See what's up there. Okay. Anyone else have anything?
Just quickly, the Door County Tourism Zone full commission meeting this Thursday. At our last meeting, we have decided, I think I might have reported that we will be hiring an additional full-time person. July receipts are still down slightly from 2022. And year-to-date is down, but judging from the amount of traffic that I've seen in September and October, my goodness. And sales tax remains steady. 19 new permits issued for September for a total of 1,525 permits. All the new permits are for private residences. That's it for now. And I will be submitting a request or our application for the local road improvement project. It will be that mile section of West Whitefish Bay between Matthey to Country View. So plugging along on West Whitefish Bay, trying to get those segments done. The estimated cost for that is $172,000, or roughly there, slightly more. And so maybe we can get some help with that.
And the LRIP project is for blacktop.
Asphalt only.
Asphalt only. So if we get funded for that, that picks up a good piece of the cost. But with that, just as a footnote, having just gone through our budget, to finish Dunn Road and Whitefish Bay, we'll probably consume 75–80% of our construction budget for next year. So the road tour could be short.
I was going to say that.
But we'll see. I mean, we're making progress. So thank you, Jeannie and Linda. Okay, Hugh, I can't believe how patient you are that you stayed to this point in time. You could have just done a video recap. Maybe you want to do that in the future.
Well, that's okay. We'll try to be brief. On the handout that I gave Madam Clerk earlier in the day is the September 26th County Board budget highlights. Just a couple of things worthwhile noting. The County Board lost two members in the past month, Ron Berg and Jay Zahn. and we honored them. We signed off on a substantial grant that was provided by the state for a juvenile diversion program that has an opportunity to be renewed in multiple years. It's kind of an ounce of prevention with a pound of cure. Basically, it keeps kids out of jail. It helps fund a head count that's actually going to be aligned with the sheriff's department, and they'll work in coordination with the HHS department. So they're going to get the resource and get it closer to the law enforcement team, where they're usually the tip of the spear that does the initial encounters. Usually from a long-term perspective, the more that you can try to keep the kids out of getting into jail and through the justice system, if you can use these diversion funds to do that, and there's much better outcomes, both for them individually, for the community, as well as for the taxpayers. So we're excited about what we can do with that. There's also some additional financial assistance for prairie planting. Again, looking at improved sustainability on county property. The other item of note, obviously, that garnered a lot of the discussion was the proposed ordinance for the display of flags in Door County. There is not an ordinance on the books. There was one that was passed by a vote of 14-7, and it basically just makes sure that, again, as the way I have seen it, I voted yes in favor of the ordinances to be a measure showing patriotism for the flag on county grounds. Also, as a practical matter, although there was only 1 month that was part of the discussion as far as where there was concerns, there are 11 other months in the year, and I don't, that may be news to some folks, but there are some things that you don't want to turn the flagpole basically into an advocacy marketing billboard, and that's basically what would happen. There would be other months where things like Protect the Unborn Month that exists, that would probably raise some concerns from folks that would attend that we would have to adjudicate. There is also National Law Enforcement Month that with some folks about concern for funding of police would probably raise the concerns from some members of the county board. We would have to, adjudicate that. Again, those things gets us beyond our nonpartisan mode into taking sides, and that's not worthwhile. And once you go through all these months and do that, then maybe we can hopefully get around to doing county business. So from that practical matter, plus when you look at June, growing up as a kid, June was always Dairy Month. So at what point do we...
Still is.
And it still is. And it was Dairy Month since 1939, when you do the research on it. Dairy families and the dairy industry is a big deal in the town of Sevastopol. And, you don't want to have to choose or pick sides. And again, keeping it relative to the patriotic nature of the flag, the veterans and those that basically sacrificed their lives for the oath that they took to serve our country, I think is appropriate. And I'm hopeful that we can move forward. Relative to other matters, I think, of interest that we've talked about on a few occasions over the last year, the right turn only lane safety enhancement at 4057 Gordon Road is running as of last week. I took it for a test spin on my way after picking up some custard at Culver's.
Did you see how many orange pylons got whacked today?
Yeah,
Well, those were done. Those were done Friday, Thursday and Friday.
Well, I mean, there was 3 left, I think.
There's 4 in the ditch
People still trying to
as of
turn left.
yesterday morning.
Arlene said.
A learning curve, but the good news is there wasn't a T-bone that occurred.
Somebody
from the cars, right?
Somebody said they watched him make a right-hand turn onto the way, got up past the orange culvert, and then turned around and made a left-hand turn.
Yes,
They did made a
there's
U-turn.
gonna be
Which will be our next
There's going to be a
signage.
few
No
idiots that
U-turn
we'll have
sign.
to do.
Yeah.
maybe the next budget improvement of this.
Can I ask one quick question about that?
Yes.
I thought there was gonna be signage, something saying, go to the roundabout.
There is.
It does.
It
There
does.
is.
Where is it?
There is,
Coming
it's
off
at the island.
The little square thing? that is-
Yep.
Okay.
On the island.
Yeah, it's like this big, right?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want somebody to hit it,
Okay.
or if it is hit, you want
Like, I thought it was gonna be
No,
like, proceed the roundabout.
Yeah, Supervisor Hayden, I think you have a good point. When you look at the exits coming out of, say, the Culvers, like the drive-through, whatever, you may want to consider, putting some signs on the other side of Old Highway Road which say, to,
Yeah.
Highway 4257 north. There may be
North,
some
yeah.
things just to cue those folks.
Cause I thought you said there was some funds for signage for that, so I kinda figured something substantial,
Yeah,
not a.
Yeah, I think short of using our digital billboard,
Yeah, well.
as one of our county supervisors, Nancy Rubelard, says, you can't fix stupid. So, and I think in some of those cases, some of those folks are going to learn the hard way, but it's a good start. And the repaving they did along the shoulder by Tractor Supply was also, welcome, because in some good-sized potholes there that they fixed, as well as some of the aprons they did that entered on Old Highway Road. So, as with any other kind of road change, there will be a learning curve for some, but the fact that they're going to really have to go out of their way to get an accident, I think we're going to get rid of a huge potential risk going forward. So I thank the town for its support as we work through that to get that in place. With that, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to entertain.
I have one. Do you know who at the county decided what flag went up? Just out of curiosity, was it the facilities or Ken or?
Yeah, it would go to Parks, it would go to Wayne and the Parks Department, but it was just.
That's fine. I just was curious who was the one that got the opportunity. Thanks, you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, license and permits, so you have the monthly billing from Door County Inspections. We did confirm with Brett Timmy that he will stay with us through December. And I will pursue some alternatives. Let's leave it at that for the moment. I'll keep you abreast of it as we get there.
So have we done anything with that, or have we put out a letter looking for?
We're going to hold until I have an opportunity to talk again with Brett. And then, based on that, we'll bring it back and take some appropriate action. So, in correspondence, I could swear that we saw this once before this year regarding our population. So I don't know if this person felt we needed to know twice, or if the population went up or down, but the town is 2,852 people. A lot of voting age. We have a copy of the agreement for taking care of wild stray animals with Mark Richard that continues. We have a statement in here from Associated Appraisal. I think we covered this at the budget meeting in terms of where we're at there. Amy touched on payment that we received from the state. We got a nice note from someone who's used the tennis court. He seems to be very appreciative of it now. He said he still has both knees. Okay, then you have the fire department report, and I don't know why we got July, August, and September at one time, but we did. I could have asked the fire chief, but he has slipped out the door. You have a copy of a letter to Door Sand Hill Farms. This is Sweet Willie's,
Yes.
just so you know.
Yep.
I went over there the other day and took some pictures, and frankly, I was stunned. I thought it was another Muscat in the making. So his stuff, just everything, all behind the building, and the vehicle's not licensed, et cetera, et cetera. So Mr. Lamoni is a orthopedic surgeon. He owns the property that he's had Sweet Willie using, so hopefully he will address that. And you can see the snaps.
I received a complaint on another property too. I haven't driven by yet, but.
You can always add it to the list. There's like,
Okay.
Amy has nothing to do except letters.
I do really good at writing them.
Yeah. And we also have a second copy, a second notice of the, from the Door County Child Care Services, the old, on the corner next to.
Cherry Road.
Yep. Mr. and Mrs. Van Bellinger got a letter from our attorney asking them to keep our easement open to the dam. We've asked them in the past, and they kind of, it slips their memory. At any rate, they've addressed it, so that's good news. And I thought we had a copy of, oh, we had that last month. We had Rushi's last month, right?
Yes.
Yep. And they're coming up for, they're reaching their 30 days, so we will, oops, sorry about that. We will be issuing a citation to deal with that. Mr. Brandt has a large dumpster in front of his property. He is cleaning it up, which is great news after, I can't even tell you how many years. There is a court date set for the short-term rental orders. December 12th, I believe the date is. And that's it for the forfeiture piece. And we have some announcements, which is Park and Rec meeting November 8th, our budget meeting, which Amy mentioned earlier, special budget board hearing and board meeting November 27th, excuse me, 6 p.m. I didn't even realize we were already in our 5th year for the annual town Christmas party, but we are, and it's December 1st from 5 to 8.
That's really quick.
I
Yeah,
know.
come on, girls.
No, I thought that was a little bit early. I could have gone another week, but I think Amy likes this date. Board of Supervisors meeting Monday, December 18th. So that's everything. Oh, one last thing. I think there was agreement from an email Amy sent out regarding a tree, plant a tree for Chuck.
Yes.
So,
Tree for Chuck.
a tree for Chuck. So we could get a decent tree, get one from Meisner and put it in.
At the
Maybe
park or
at the
here?
park or here. Well, we lost 2 over there.
Lost 2 during that storm.
I would love to see like a blue spruce or something close to the grader for a future Christmas tree. Outdoor lights.
I was like, cut it
Yeah,
down
see, let's
for a
definitely not put it back there. I mean, I lost those, let's not put it in the back corner. It would be actually very nice to put something there.
Something, that's nice.
Since Amy doesn't do a whole lot during the day, she go out there
Would
and
have to
trim.
be really a blue spruce, but some kind of evergreen that's gonna be a nice Christmas tree.
Balsam fir or something that's native to.
A what?
Oh, God, those are gorgeous.
Yeah, conicolor.
Concolor fir, they're very expensive.
I've not heard of
Well, depends what size you're gonna plant. We wanna plant something that's not,
Yeah, those are the least disease susceptible.
yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful trees.
Yeah, spruce are
It's
very.
not like a spruce where it's, you go up to it and,
bites you.
It's got no beautiful soft, nice, long needles.
Because boy, a Christmas tree is blue spruce, you'd hate yourself for that over time.
But they
I
smell
know,
nice.
because it's like really, really.
Concolor fir?
It's really
Yeah, they're
picky.
beautiful.
All right, we'll look into a con-color fir.
Everybody sells those. Everybody
See
sells
what's
them. They're beautiful.
All right, the only thing left on this meeting is to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
The man is quick, right on the money. Motion by Derek, second by Mark to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Adjourned we are.